All right. So tonight we have a Shady Sports Network first. We are joined by an athlete that doesn't currently play football. And I know that's shocking for everybody who's tuning in currently, because we normally only cover football. But I'm happy to welcome in a special guest who's actually a professional wrestler, wrestling in the Primos Wrestling Foundation, Mr. Dean Malice. So I'm going to play a quick intro video and then we'll get right into it. All right. How you doing tonight, Dean?
I'm well. How about yourself?
I definitely cannot complain. So I have to say, obviously, you and I have known each other for a very long time. One thing that I didn't say in my preamble there that I stumbled over is that you and I have known each other since high school. Actually, the beginning of high school at that.
Absolutely.
So, it's been probably almost 20 years since we've really known each other. In doing research about you, I learned a lot that I was really shocked to find out. So, I, for one, am super excited about this interview tonight. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. So back in high school, back when we first met, you were a two-sport athlete. You played football and you also ran track as well. What position did you play on the football field?
So normally I would play offensive line. That's where I started at, but I love playing defensive line. Basically, I was just a lineman all around. I was left guard for most of my career there.
That's fair. Obviously, you're a very big dude, very strong dude, so that makes sense. So you end up going on to attend University of Nebraska at Kearney, which this is one of the things that I did not know. We kind of lost touch there for a little while. What happened that led you out of college after a brief stay? And if you could do it all over again, would you repeat the same actions?
Well, as soon as I got to Kearney there, I ended up having surgery on, my right ankle there. So it kind of took me out of classes, took me out of practices and everything. That was kind of the prelude to my shady world and life that I started living. I started selling weed out of my dorm room, and the school didn't like that too much. They had found out and politely asked me to leave.
That's understandable. We won't get into too much about that, but around this time, you meet a man known as the Provider. Hopefully not because of anything extracurricular there, but who was also known as Joey Terrifying at the time. Talk to me about how he influenced the formation of basically a different dream that was not anywhere attached to football.
So basically, I met Provider, basically a friend of a friend kind of deal. I started hanging out with a new crowd of people once I moved back from Kearney, and one day they just was like, "Hey, let's go check out this wrestling." Our buddy just opened up the promotion, and I started going to these shows. Sort of planted the seeds of possible, wrestling career fairly early on. However, this was 15-ish years ago. I wish I would have started back then, but once I met him, I realized that this is a local thing. It's a very attainable goal.
Definitely, which is very fair. Obviously, like we talked about, Primos is primarily Denver based, correct?
Yep, correct.
Definitely. So if you're in the Denver area, which I know a lot of the viewers are going to be, given that we're both in the Denver area, please definitely check out one of these matches. Definitely affordable, a lot of fun to go to. Definitely would even recommend taking your little bit older kids to. It's definitely a fun time for sure.
They're all ages, so it should be no worries.
Absolutely. So while football was also always a great fit for you, given your size, strength, athleticism, it seems that wrestling has kind of always been a passion of yours. So when did you first develop this love for the sport that you're now so deeply involved in?
It has to be very young. I remember watching, Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake, Big Boss Man guys being, 4, 5, 6 years old. And then, everybody seems to kind of shy away from wrestling once they start getting a little bit older. And it was quite the opposite with me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we got a couple comments rolling in from our guy Rocco. Rocco in the house, the MWN network, or sorry, MW network. I need to see the prospects cake. Learning. Yes. And then Kevin. So he's throwing me under the bus here. So this is the dude you were talking about. Sam said he could take you. You know better than that. I am not a fighter.
I don't think I've seen Sam get aggressive ever. So
yeah, exactly. And I
it's
don't
nothing we're
think
gonna have
that's
to
going to
worry
change. Rocco saying my son is 10. My son's 10 as well. So I am looking forward to bringing him to a match fairly soon. Trust me. And then how do I get tickets to the shows? That's a great question, Rocco. James, how can we get tickets to the shows?
So tickets to the shows can be bought from any of the talent in the weeks leading up to the shows. You can also buy them at the door for a little bit more expensive than you can get them from the talent. But I believe you can buy them online also.
Very nice, very nice. So obviously, very, very easy to get. So that's always super happy to hear that. I mean, sometimes these things you have to like jump through a fence and through some hoops to get them, and it's kind of difficult, especially with these indoor football leagues that I cover a lot of times.
Yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible for people to intake our product.
There you go. So with football a distant dream and wrestling not yet on the forefront, you started what seemed to be a very dark and difficult stretch of your life over the next decade. As you talked about, you were forced to kind of get into the working world, 9 to 5. Which led you to manual labor jobs, which we've all been there at times. How did your time as a regular 9 to 5 guy busting your ass in these labor jobs kind of help mold you into what you are as a wrestler today?
The work ethic, brother. Professional wrestling has been one of the most difficult things I've ever attempted in my life. Usually any athletic endeavor has been fairly simple for me. I've been, gifted in that sense. Professional wrestling is, as we all know, very physical on your body, right? And the physical nature is not the most difficult aspect, in my opinion. There's a lot of brain power required to do this and do this at a high level and do it correctly.
Absolutely, without hurting people too, which is something that a lot of people don't talk about. Injuries are very possible, as you and I have talked about several times off camera.
Absolutely.
So you talked about in your backstory when we talked off camera that you at one point were getting in a lot of bar fights. So during this stretch of your life, when you're getting in all these bar fights, I mean, was it crossing your mind that maybe fighting or wrestling or perhaps boxing was something you should consider?
Absolutely. I believe the wrestling dream was always something that was in the back of my mind throughout my whole life. I don't think I ever would have considered boxing. I am, on the larger side of the human beings, and I am, let's just say, not in as good a shape as I should be to even attempt to be a boxer. However, the professional wrestling game it still requires a fair amount of conditioning and strength. I feel like was the better path. I've always felt like it was something I could easily do. Moving people against their will is something that has been a forte for me. I was the offensive lineman, just kind of natural translation.
Absolutely. Rocco chimes in. He says it's figure skater levels of talent, teamwork at its finest, which is absolutely true. I mean, if you watch these matches, which we'll get to it in just a second here, you'll see that they're kind of working together, like I said, to ensure that nobody's getting hurt, but at the same time, still putting on a very good show.
Absolutely. So we're out there doing our best to put on the best show possible. All right. I wouldn't say that it's fake is a term that's thrown around very frequently. I kind of take offense to that. I've been doing this a very short period of time, and I've seen very real life-changing injuries and very real life-changing opportunities be dished out due to this. Okay. So my answer to that would always be, a TV show isn't always reality. We're in this purely for entertainment. That's where the term sports entertainment comes from.
I love how you put that. I love how you put that because it is very much sports entertainment. I mean, these guys are high level athletes. I mean, I remember back in the day watching Rey Mysterio Jr. fight and just being amazed at the things he would do. And I'm not saying that there's necessarily anybody that's flipping off of, the ring and stuff, but at the same time, it just the immense amount of athleticism and coordination it takes to do these things without breaking your neck or something when you land it's unbelievable. And for people to just dismiss it as, fake is just not even fair. It's not giving the athletes the credit that they deserve.
Those are very much fighting words in a lot of circles. I wouldn't go around calling it fake in any way.
Absolutely. So Rocco's got another question for you. Who is your favorite wrestler?
My favorite wrestler currently, I would have to say Lance Archer is one of my favorite guys currently to watch. He's known as the Murder Hawk Monster. I would say he's about 6'8". He's a former college quarterback for, I think, Texas State, I believe. He's big powerhouse, very athletic, quite the monster.
Interesting. 6'8" and he played quarterback. I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, very, very shocking, right?
Interesting. So unfortunately, there is a topic in here that I wanted to cover only because it kind of discusses what you were going through at the time and why your life kind of took this dark turn. So I apologize for bringing the subject up ahead of time. But sure. During this time, your father fell ill with cancer, and the prognosis was obviously not very promising. How close were you with your father at the time, and how hard did this hit you at the time?
So at the time, he and I were very close. I had quite the, shall I say, interesting upbringing, to say the least. I wasn't raised with him as my father for the first portion of my life. So he and I didn't really get any of those youthful bonding experiences. That being said, most of our bonding was done later in life, which led to us probably being closer than we would have if it were the other way around.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. I know that I definitely had my moments with my father when I was younger, and it definitely, when we got to a point where I was an adult, and we had a much better relationship for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So around this time, your life had kind of taken a turn from a law-abiding manual laborer, as we're talking about, to a full-time drug dealer, more or less. You were kind of trying to escape life at that moment, and it seemed like you were running from something at that time. What were you trying to escape at that moment?
Reality, brother. The reality of watching this man go through what he was going through was quite honestly too much for me to bear. It was definitely a period of weakness for me. I would say that also led into a period of tremendous growth, which I am currently going through still.
Absolutely. I would agree. Which is perfect preface for my next question, which is, little did you know it at the time, it seemed like you were almost running to something, which you ended up with, this new destination, which was wrestling for you. I mean, it's an outlet for your aggression. And I would venture a guess that it allows you to kind of get out a lot of that angst, that anxiety that you had about the situation that was surrounding you in life. So talk to me about what was ultimately the spark that kind of lit the fire that was ultimately just like, I'm doing this, I'm going to be a wrestler.
So basically, I had began to watch wrestling a whole lot more with my dad while he was sick. All right. And that began to grow those seeds that were planted so many years before. we'll go ahead and fast forward. I had lost my father, and I was walking down the path I didn't want to walk down. I wanted to clean my life up, and that led to me having a whole lot of extra time on my hands. And I had to do something to mitigate that. All right. So, I tried out for some semi-pro football and realized that my age was probably was probably holding me back from that. I had probably lost a step or two. But some of my favorite professional wrestlers didn't get their actual first start until they were in their 30s, like namely DDP. He was 35 before he had his first match. And that was a huge inspiration for me to dip my toe in the professional wrestling waters.
Absolutely. And that's interesting. That's interesting that you pointed that out. I was not aware that he got started that late, but it makes a lot of sense because a lot of these guys are, following a similar background to you. They're former they're former football players, they're former basketball players, whatever it may be, and they're finding their way into this after an injury or something of the sort slowed them down and prevented them from following their career. In fact, I've seen several guys recently sign deals that were pursuing like the XFL draft and they didn't get drafted, so they went to wrestling instead, or they went to rugby instead, or something like that, which it just makes a lot of sense. I mean, you want top-notch athletes for this game or for wrestling, so it makes sense to bring in guys that are already conditioned and trained to be athletes.
Very true. I do know that a guy like Jim the Anvil Neidhart played the NFL, but he was noted as saying that his ultimate goal the whole time was to become a professional wrestler in the WWF. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I was not aware of that. So obviously a few things had to happen for you to get into the ring. It wasn't as simple as you saying you wanted to do it and just going out there and doing it. So you end up seeing a Facebook post that effectively changed your life. I mean, tell me about how wrestling sort of found you in a roundabout way.
Right. So this was probably, 3 or 4 years after my father's passing. And I basically exhausted all of my previous physical endeavors as far as sports go. I did see an open tryout for the Butcher Shop, which is ran by the provider, Joe McDougall. This was probably 2021 in June. That was when I first had my first training session. I went in, did the damn thing, left, and was more sore than I had been in about 15 years due to my lack of sports activity after that training session.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So ultimately, what happened from that trial? I mean, do they give you a call and they say that you're interested and you have to go back, or is it at that point you receive a contract?
So nobody's really under contract in the independent wrestling scene, but I did get the call back right away and said that we would like you to train with us. And here's the deal we're preparing to offer you for your dues. And I took it immediately and never looked back.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So speaking about took it immediately, never looked back, this seems like a perfect time to play your highlight video of your first match. So we'll go ahead and pop that up. So this is yourself, and who's your opponent?
So this is actually me in a handicap match against two guys. The guy in the ring currently, that's Billy 5.2. This guy is the Type 1 Warrior.
Very nice.
They're two of our more athletic guys, somewhat high flying.
Definitely. So full disclosure, I did not get an opportunity to watch this before I played it. I got an opportunity to download it and then prompt it for us to play tonight, and that was it. So this is my first time seeing it. This is going to be interesting. So you end up impressing members of the Butcher Shop Pro Wrestling Gym, as you spoke about, the longest running professional wrestling gym in Colorado, you mentioned.
Yep.
What have these guys taught you so far in your time there?
So of course, when you first go in, you learn the basics. You learn how to bump, you learn how to strike, and you you learn how to work. Okay, so basically, it goes in steps. You want to learn how to do the bumps. You want to learn how to fall, and you want to learn how not to hurt yourself or your opponent. And that's the the foundation you need to work off of.
Very nice. I would agree. Rocco says, so far, what's been your favorite moment in wrestling?
So far, my favorite moment in wrestling has been, oh, I would say working Big Gun's retirement match, and that was it. That was for a company called CSW in the Colorado Springs.
Really?
Yes.
Oh man, you should have hit me up. Right down the throat.
I'll be there again. Trust me. We'll get you in there.
Where was that at, if you don't mind me asking? The venue.
It's at Sunshine Studios.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I was going to say the Black Sheep would be a really good place to do something like that.
I think they've done it before also, but we've got kind of a sweetheart thing going on at Sunshine Studios.
Gotcha. So obviously, some of the greatest wrestlers of all time that grew to be legends have signature moves. So is there like a signature move that the crowd can latch onto when they're watching your matches?
I would like to say there's one move I've been doing with a lot of frequency. It's called the sidewalk slam. It's kind of a rudimentary, basic beginner kind of move, but it's one that I can perform safely with much intensity and make it look damn good. I was calling that malicious intent.
Gotcha. Very nice. Okay. So if you're watching one of Dean's matches here, you can definitely check out his move, Malicious Intent. I love that name, by the way.
Absolutely.
So during this time, you're not only trying to develop as a wrestler, but you were also trying to fight your demons outside the ring as well, namely your addiction we spoke about before. You began the long road back to sobriety with a stumble or two along the way, which haven't we all have those. However, you found success. For anyone out there struggling through this themselves, how were you able to find success in this fight?
Basically, if it's important to you, you'll change. All right. I know that's a lot easier said than done, and I know that's somewhat insensitive, but ultimately, the onus lies on you to want to change. Nobody will ever change unless they want to.
Absolutely. And, it may be insensitive to some people because I understand that there's the belief that addiction is a disease. And I will fully say that there are some people that are affected by addiction and it is a disease. But
Absolutely.
to say that the human brain can't overcome that, if you really put your mind to it, is also false. So obviously, you're living proof of it.
The human brain is a very powerful tool. And if used correctly, there's little to no limits.
Absolutely. I agree. So fast forward to January of 2022, and you make your debut in the ring as the Prospect, representing the providers group known as the Cult Awaits You, correct?
Correct.
So this is this match we're watching right now, correct?
Yep. No. This is my okay. This is my main roster in-ring debut. This was the most recent Primos show we just had. This was on November 21st, I believe it was. The January show was the debut of the character, the Prospect. And that was me acting as a manager / what they call heater for the provider.
Gotcha. Okay. And what's the heater? Is that like the hype man, basically?
Basically, but he's he generates heat. All right, heat in the wrestling industry is hatred. Basically, the fans' hatred for you.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Interesting. So I'm curious, what were some of the tactics that you would turn to in order to kind of heat up the crowd?
It started as me coming out and taking care of problems that the provider had laid out before me. The first contact I made in the ring was with a couple of luchadors known as Lipto and Red Viper. All right. Red Viper was in possession of something that provider wanted at the time. So he sent me in to do his dirty work. All right. Lipto got caught in the crosshairs in my debut, namely because Lipto and Viper were in a match together at the time.
Gotcha. Okay. So they're fighting and you essentially run in and get involved?
So this was in January. If memory serves correctly, that's exactly how it happened. They performed their match to the finish, and I believe provider's music hit, and I came out. I haven't reviewed the film recently. However, this is my recollection of the events.
I love that very professional answer there. So since then, you've basically been all in on the wrestling promotion and ultimately athletic side of the games. So with that being said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of sell the people of Colorado on why do they need to come see a Primos show, and specifically a Dean Malice match.
So you need to come to the Primos Premier Pro Wrestling events at the Roxy Theater because we have a whole roster of wrestlers that do nothing but work hard, put their bodies on the line, weekly, monthly, some of them daily, all in the name of entertainment. All we're trying to do is put smiles on faces and butts in seats. All right. Now you want to see a prospect match. You come, and what you see at the prospect match is, how would we say? I'm very good at following the provider's orders at this point. All right. So if he says he wants something done, you see it done, and you see it done with violence. All right.
Very nice. Very nice. Rocco says they need to come to Primos to see the greatest commenter of all time, Rocco McSweets, the voice that keeps you moist.
Very true. This man is a legend behind the mic.
I love that. The voice that keeps you moist. Oh, man.
He's great at it.
Rocco,
he keeps me moist, that's for sure.
Rocco, I just hope you know you're never going to live that down forever. I'm going to have to say that to you. So I have to say, obviously, this entire process of researching one of my friends and like sitting here kind of looking at your background and what you've been through over the past 10 years has been completely eye-opening to me. So hopefully this interview has kind of turned some heads and showed some people the kind of effort it takes and training it takes to get to the high level that you're at and to get involved in wrestling in general, because like we spoke about before, there is that word thrown around quite often that shouldn't be about this game and this sport. And it's really not as fake as people make it sound. So before you get out of here, I want to give you an opportunity to shout out anybody, everybody, any product, anything you want to talk about.
Basically, what I want to do is I want to thank Joe McDougall and I want to thank Joe Vernola for giving me the opportunity to live out my dream and change my life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving my buddy here an opportunity to chase his dreams as well. And then Dean, sorry, thank you for coming on and giving me the opportunity to chase my dreams as well, man. Like, it sounds goofy as hell, but I was the kind of guy that was always, looking at like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport as kind of like an inspiration. And now kind of, due to athletes like yourself, I'm able to kind of pursue that dream myself. So I appreciate you coming on once again, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for answering all my questions off camera and kind of getting everything lined up for me. I appreciate it. And I can definitely say this will not be the last time you're on this channel.
Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate everything. And keep up the good work. You got an awesome product here. And time will tell for where either one of us will go. Hopefully it's up.
Absolutely. Oh, we're going up. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Damn right.
Well, have a great rest of your night, man. And I will definitely catch you later.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. You too. So once again, guys, that is Dean Malice, aka The Prospect. check out one of his matches with Primo Wrestling. As we spoke about before, you can get tickets from him on Facebook. You can find him as James Graham on Facebook. You can also contact me if you need to get a hold of anybody involved in Primos. I will point you in the right direction to make sure that we get them, as he said, butts in seats and eyes on the ring, because these guys definitely are high-level athletes, and anybody who says otherwise just is not informed. You have not watched a wrestling match, bottom line. I may have felt away from the game, away from the sport as I got older, like James spoke about. But at the same time, it was always a love in the back of my mind, and there was always a respect for the athletes that do that, because, like he said, he's seen life-changing opportunities and life-changing injuries. So, it's no different than any other sport that these guys are out here training and living life surrounded around this sport in order to make it. So to me, that deserves the coverage, deserves the respect of anybody who likes athleticism and competition. Because in my mind, at the end of the day, regardless of if the matches are staged, it's the amount of talent, the amount of athleticism, the amount of effort that they put into all these moves that is more respectable than anything. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button, click that like button, comment. You'll automatically be entered in our drawing, which is triggered in just 40 more subscribers to get $150 cash. I will literally give you $150 cash when we hit 500 subscribers. All you have to do is like, comment, and subscribe. One lucky winner. With that being said, have a great night. I appreciate your support tonight, and I'll catch you in the next one.